Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya All together. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means conquest, I should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nashta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Her attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. Loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Gyanatirantasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai. Born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for being here for this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today we're reading from the 7th canto, in 4th chapter, entitled Hiranyakashipu Terrorizes the Universe. And we're beginning with text 30. Can someone please read text 30? There's a mic right here. Yeah, Jaishnav has it.
Hiranyakashipu had 4 wonderful, well-qualified sons, of whom the one named Prahlad was the best. Indeed, Prahlad was a reservoir of all transcendental qualities because he was an unalloyed devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Jai, so I heard this recently, but I can't exactly remember all of them. But he has 3 brothers, and they are like Anuladha, Samhada, what? Hlada. Okay, Jai. Thank you, Jaishnav. Yeah, but Prahlad is the best because he's a devotee. Yeah. Jai. Next text, please.
The qualities of Maharaj Prahlad, the son of Hiranyakashipu, are described herewith. He was completely cultured as a qualified Brahmin, having very good character and being determined to understand the absolute truth. He had full control of his senses and mind. Like the super soul, he was kind to every living entity and was the best friend of everyone. To respectable persons, he acted exactly like a menial servant. To the poor, he was like a father. To his equals, he was attached like a sympathetic brother, and he considered his teachers, spiritual masters, and older god brothers to be as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was completely free from unnatural pride that might have arisen from his good education, riches, beauty, aristocracy, and so on.
Okay, so this isn't our focus verse, but I think we can still go through it a little bit because it's such a nice verse. And we could even do the Sanskrit all together. Brahmanya Shila Sampana Satya Sandho Jitendriya Atmavat Sarva Bhutanam Eka Priya Suritama Dasavat Sanatyagangri Pritrivadina Vatsala Bhatravat Sadrishe Snigdho Guru Shvishvara Bhavanam Vidyartha Rupa Janmadyo Namna Sambhavi Varjita. Okay, can someone read the beginning of the purport?
There are some of the qualifications of a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is automatically a Brahman because a Vaishnava has all the good qualities of a Brahman. Shamo damastapas shaucham kshantirarjavam evacha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma svavajam. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, wisdom, knowledge, and religiousness. These are the qualities by which the Brahmanas work. Bhagavad Gita 1842. These qualities are manifest in the body of a Vaishnava. Therefore, a perfect Vaishnava is also a perfect Brahman. As indicated here by the words, Brahmanya Shila Sampannaha. A Vaishnava is always determined to understand the absolute truth. And to understand the absolute truth, one needs to have full control over his senses and mind. Prahlad Maharaj possessed all these qualities. A Vaishnava is always a well-wisher to everyone. The 6 Goswamis, for example, are described in this way. Dhira Dhira Janapriya. They were popular with both the gentle and the ruffians. A Vaishnava must be equal to everyone, regardless of one's position. Atmavat. A Vaishnava should be like Paramatma. Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Riddhadeshirjana Tishtati. Paramatma doesn't hate anyone. Indeed, he is in the heart of a Brahmin, but he is also even in the heart of a pig. As the moon never refuses to distribute its pleasing rays even to the home of a Chandala, a Vaishnava never refuses to act for everyone's welfare. Therefore, a Vaishnava is always obedient to the spiritual master, Arya. The word Arya refers to one who is advanced in knowledge. One who is deficient in knowledge cannot be called Arya. At the present, however, the word Arya is used to refer to those who are godless. This is the unfortunate situation of Kali Yuga.
The word guru refers to a spiritual master who initiates his disciples into advancement in the science of Krishna or Krishna consciousness, as stated by Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur, Sri Bhagavan Mantro Parisake Guruv Iti Artaha.
Jai. So, I'd like to ask, why are we hearing about the qualities of Prahlad Maharaj? What's the purpose of us hearing about these qualities? So that we will be attracted, Mother Kunti says. Anyone else have an idea? Yeah, so we can aspire to have the same qualities. Jai. So, yeah, we can kind of look through these in perhaps a focused way, and we can see how we can try to inculcate these qualities in our character. We can keep in mind, Srila Prabhupada will explain in future purports to this, that Sri Prahlad Maharaj was a 5-year-old boy, and he was born in the family of demons. And he says that actually one's qualification of being a devotee or a demon isn't by their birth. So while Prahlad Maharaj was technically born a saint because he had heard in the womb, still it's not by birth, but he acquired these qualities. So similarly, we don't have to think, oh, these personalities in the Bhagavatam, they were just, born that way. They were, I could never do that. But the point of these descriptions of the devotees and the devotees' qualities is so that we know what we can also aspire for in bhakti and what is expected from us if we want to attain to Krishna's lotus feet. So we can first look at this. Yeah, another point, we'll read it in a further purport, but Srila Prabhupada mentions how Prahlad Maharaj, he's actually still present here. He's in the Vaikuntha planets, but he's also at the Sutala planet, I believe. So he's still in this material world. He's still existing, and he's still alive. So this personality, we could meet him one day on our journeys. Who would want to meet Prahlad Maharaj? So we're hearing about Prahlad Maharaj, and his mercy is still available to us. And yeah, we can connect with him through these descriptions. So he was completely cultured as a qualified Brahmana, having very good character and being determined to understand the absolute truth. So very determined to understand the absolute truth. That's very nice. Usually we hear how there's kind of a point in people's lives where they, you could say they wake up. So, or, when people join, they're usually maybe a young adult, maybe they're, a late teenager or in their 20s, and they're like, okay, what's the point of life? And so then they start inquiring, or sometimes they're a little older, and but very rarely are they like Prahlad Maharaj, who's 5 years old, yet he's so determined to understand the absolute truth. We'll talk a little more about that. And I really like this point of how a Vaishnava is like the super soul. He's very kind to every living entity and the best friend of everyone. So, does anyone remember the analogy that Srila Prabhupada used to describe this quality? It was like he's like the moon. So the moon has these pleasing rays that get distributed to everyone. And the moon doesn't discriminate who gets the mercy, you could say. So as Vaishnavas, when we try to share Krishna consciousness, we indiscriminately give mercy. We try to be the best friend of everyone. We don't hold grudges. We don't see in duality of, oh, this person, I should be kind to, this person I shouldn't be. Small kind of side note, but last night I was asleep, and I was like kind of startled because I thought someone had a flashlight on pointing at my face. I was like, what the heck? And so I turn over, and it's just the moon. It's the full moon going through the window right on my face. And I was like, wow, yeah, that's really nice, moon. So, yeah, we should be like the moon. Acted like a menial servant. To the poor, he was like a father. To his equals, he was attached like a sympathetic brother. He considered his teachers, spiritual masters, and older godbrothers to be as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was completely free from unnatural pride that might have arisen from his good education, riches, beauty, aristocracy, and so on. Okay. So we can keep going. Someone please read text 33.
Although Prahlad Maharaj was born in a family of asuras, he found he himself was not an asura but a great devotee of Lord Vishnu. Unlike the other asuras, he was never envious of Vaishnavas. He was not agitated when put into danger, and he was neither directly nor indirectly interested in the fruitive activities described in the Vedas. Indeed, he considered everything material to be useless, and therefore he was completely devoid of material desires. He always controlled his senses and life air, and being of steady intelligence and determination, he subdued all lusty desires.
Right. So each of these texts are so packed with instruction and meaning. Yeah. And if anyone has any comments they'd like to share as we go through this, feel free to. Because since we're covering a lot, we might lose a few points here and there. But if you'd like to bring something up, you can. Text 34.
O King, Prahlad Maharaj's good qualities are still glorified by learned saints and Vaishnavas. As all good qualities are always found existing in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they also exist forever in his devotee, Prahlad Maharaj.
Maybe we can read the purport of this verse.
From authoritative scripture, it is learned that Prahlad Maharaj still lives in Vaikuntha Loka, as well as within this material world on the planet Sutala. This transcendental quality of existing simultaneously in different places is another qualification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Galoka eva nivishati akilatma bhuta. The Lord appears in the core of everyone's heart, yet he exists on his own planet, Galoka Vrindavan. A devotee acquires qualities almost the same as those of the Lord because of unalloyed devotional service. Ordinary living beings cannot be so qualified, but a devotee can be qualified like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not in full, but partially.
All right. Anyone have any thoughts on this? Oh, wait. Prabhupada Priya mentioned that sometimes they say devotees can be in Krishna Lila and Gaura Lila. Yeah, I thought it's interesting. Sometimes we want to be famous. We want everyone to know about us, or we want to be popular. But just see how this was millions of years ago, and we're still glorifying Prahlad Maharaj just because he's a devotee. Of course, he's a Mahabhagavat devotee, but his qualities are eternal. In the material world, people get famous for having a hit song, or for being good at a certain sport or something like that, but those qualities, they will be eventually destroyed. But the qualities found in the devotee are always existing, just like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah. Prabhupada Priya.
I just thought it was interesting because it says that Prahlad Maharaj was living in Vaikuntha, the spiritual world, and simultaneously in the material world. So one can be in the material world and the spiritual world at the same time. Then I was wondering, does that mean that, we're all here having fallen down from the spiritual world and we're in the material world. Does that mean we're also simultaneously in the spiritual world, in our eternal spiritual forms?
Would anyone like to share on that? Yeah.
They saying, the okay, so what's her answer? I don't want to ask her, but I think. Okay, none of okay.
Oh, Krishna.
So my son once, he was 9 years old, and I'm walking with him, and he says, "Dad," he says, "this place is like a nightmare, and we're asleep in the spiritual world, and we need to wake up from this nightmare." And he said it with such power that I was like, it was really interesting because anyways, and so I asked him, I said, "Where did you get that from?" And he said, that was his answer. So yeah, we're in the spiritual world. We're in a daze right now. We're in sometimes we daydream, right? Sometimes you look at somebody and they're like, and they're somewhere totally different, right? So in the spiritual world right now, we're in a daydream that's very intense, that we've started to believe is the truth, and we're stuck in forgetting Krishna. At least that's my understanding.
Nandabraj, can you read this next verse?
Yes, Prabhu. In any assembly where there are discourses about saints and devotees, O King Yudhishthira, even the enemies of the demons, namely the demigods, what to speak of you, would cite Prahlad Maharaj as an example of a great devotee.
Try. Next text, please.
Who could list the innumerable transcendental qualities of Prahlad Maharaj? He had unflinching faith in Vasudev, Lord Krishna, the son of Vasudev, and unalloyed devotion to him. His attachment to Lord Krishna was natural because of his previous devotional service. Although his good qualities cannot be enumerated, they prove that he was a great soul, Mahatma.
Jai. So Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he focuses on this this point of Vasudev and how Prahlad Maharaj was a devotee of Krishna at the end of the day. Well, and of course Lord Nrsingadev, but they're non-different. But I've also heard some descriptions from Indradumna Maharaj about Prahlad Maharaj entering into Krishna Lila in some capacity. I can't share much on it, but Srila Prabhupada makes it a point in the purport. And then this is our focus verse. Nyasta kridanako balo Jadavatan manastaya Krishna graha grihitatma Naveda jagad idrisham. Nyasta kridanako balo Atma Sakridanako balo Naveda Jaga Idrisham. Nasakridana Kobalo. Garavatananastaya. Anyone else? Synonyms altogether. Nyasta, having given up. Kridana kaha, all sportive activities or tendencies for childhood play. Bala, a boy. Jadavat, as if dull, without activities. Tanmanastaya, may be fully absorbed in Krishna. Krishna graha, by Krishna, there's like a strong influence, like a graha or planetary influence. Yutat Atma, his mind is fully attracted, not Veda, understood. This translation: from the very beginning of his childhood, Prahlad Maharaj was uninterested in childish playthings. Indeed, he gave them up altogether and remained silent and dull, being fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Since his mind was always affected by Krishna consciousness, he could not understand how the world goes on, being fully absorbed in the activities of sense gratification. Don't please read the purport.
Prahlad Maharaj is the vivid example of a great person fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness. In Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 8.274, it is said, Sthavara Jangam dekhe na dekhe tara murti sarvatra hai nija ishtadeva spurti. A fully Krishna conscious person, although situated in this material world, does not see anything but Krishna, anywhere and everywhere. This is the sign of a Mahabhagavat. The Mahabhagavata sees Krishna everywhere because of his attitude of pure love for Krishna, as confirmed in the Brahma Samhita 538. Premanjanacharita bhakti vilochanena santas sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti yam shama sundaram achintya gunaswarupam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami.
I worship the primeval Lord Govinda, who is always seen by the devotees, whose eyes are anointed with the pulp of love. He is seen as in his eternal form of Sham Sundar, situated within the heart of the devotee. An exalted devotee, or Mahatma, who is rarely to be seen, remains fully conscious of Krishna and constantly sees the Lord within the core of his heart. It is sometimes said that when one is influenced by evil stars like Saturn, Rahu, or Ketu, he cannot make advancement in any prospective activity. In just the opposite way, Prahlad Maharaj was influenced by Krishna, the supreme planet, and thus he could not think of the material world and live without Krishna consciousness. This is the sign of a Mahabhagavat. Even if one is an enemy of Krishna, a Mahabhagavat sees him to be also engaged in Krishna's service. Another crude example is that everything appears yellow to the jaundiced eye. Similarly, to a Mahabhagavat, everyone but himself appears to be engaged in Krishna's service.
Prahlad Maharaj is the approved Mahabhagavat, the supreme devotee. In the previous verse, it is stated that he had natural attachment, na israghi ratihi. The symptoms of such natural attachment for Krishna are described in this verse. Although Prahlad Maharaj was only a boy, he had no interest in playing. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 11.242, Viraktir anyatra vacha. The symptoms of perfect Krishna consciousness is that one loses interest in all material activities. For a small boy to give up playing is impossible. But Prahlad Maharaj, being situated in first-class devotional service, was always absorbed in the trance of Krishna consciousness. Just as the materialistic person is always absorbed in thoughts of material gain, a Mahabhagavat like Prahlad Maharaj is always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Wow, it's a very nice verse. We're hearing how this is such an amazing thing, that Prahlad Maharaj, he was uninterested in childish playthings. what are our childish playthings? You might think. So, yeah, we see in the scriptures several times. In Bhagavad Gita, we hear Bogaishwarya Prasaktanam Taya Parita Chetasam Yavasayatmika Buddhir Samadona Vidhiyate. In the minds of those who are too attached to material sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service unto the Supreme Lord does not take place. So we're getting kind of an instruction here that we need to be detached from sense gratification, from material opulence. One of the, I believe the 10th offense is to, Zone, help me out, maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. And I heard this analogy once from Sachinandan Maharaj, that we want to invite Krishna, we want to invite Radha Chandji into our heart, so we have to make it a nice place for him to sit. We have to clear out the room and make it nice. But if there's so much stuff everywhere, imagine you walk into someone's home and they have a desk on their couch and a dog and a parrot and just so many things all over the room. There's nowhere for Krishna to sit. So we have to make a place for Krishna to sit in our heart. If we have so much lust, envy, greed in our heart, there's nowhere for Krishna to sit. So how do we give up sense gratification? Does anyone have an idea? How do we give up? Mother Kunti said, by replacing it, Jai, with Krishna consciousness. So one might look at this verse and say, okay, all children can no longer play. Or, perhaps you're a Gurukul teacher and you say, okay, no more playthings, only japa, only Krishna consciousness. But we have to replace perhaps mundane playthings or mundane attachments with spiritual ones, or with Krishna conscious ones, or at least with regulated ones. So perhaps we can't just let the children play the entire day, play for 12 hours a day, but maybe, enough to keep them happy, enough to keep them feeling enlivened, and enough to help them focus later on what is perhaps more important, which is their Krishna consciousness. So similarly, we are perhaps not at the stage of Prahlad Maharaj, who is completely detached from all material opulence, who's completely detached from, as we were hearing, his birth, his aristocracy, his good education. He's completely detached from everything which is not related to Krishna, but we're not perhaps there yet. So we can try to regulate. And also, we understand there's this verse by Rupa Goswami. I can't remember it exactly, but he says, if you want to keep your attachment for your family, your home, your opulence, your work and all these things, then don't go to the Yamuna. Whatever you do, don't go there. Or in our case, don't come into the temple room. Don't look at Radha Kalachandji. Because once you see them, that's the end. Your material life is finished. So, yeah, that's how Krishna works. Krishna, his attractiveness bewilders even Cupid. So when we associate with Krishna, material energy, it becomes dull. It becomes uninteresting for us. Because Krishna is so great. We can imagine everything that we want to enjoy in the material world, we can enjoy with Krishna, and we're supposed to enjoy it with Krishna. And we're supposed to serve Krishna in that way. Another point I found interesting. Let me see. Yeah, this is a beautiful point we're seeing here. is the vision of a Mahabhagavat. Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena. Srila Prabhupada would quote this verse so much. But like jaundice, when our eyes are jaundiced, everything looks yellow. Similarly, when we are in a state of pure love for Krishna, it changes everything. We see everything differently. And we see everything in engagement with Krishna. And we see the eternal form of Sham Sundara situated in the heart of everyone. And it says down here that the Mahabhagavat sees everyone engaged in Krishna's service except for himself. So he's very humble in his vision. And then a final point I thought was interesting is tomorrow night there's going to be a blood moon, they call it here. Oh, next Gaur Pranim night. Really? Okay, so on the night of Gaur Pranim, after all the celebrations, there's they call it a blood moon, so it's a lunar eclipse, and that's when evil stars, as we're hearing here, like Saturn, Rahu or Ketu, it's Rahu who eclipses the moon on that event we hear. So he will be quite prominent, but we take shelter of the Krishna planet, the supreme planet. And yeah, so Gaur Pranim will celebrate Lord Chaitanya and Lord Chaitanya's appearance instead of being swayed by the negative influence of the eclipse. Yeah, the moon will be red that night. Yeah, Prabhupada Priya said that the moon will be blushing in embarrassment because Lord Chaitanya appeared and he's so much more beautiful. Okay, so it's 8:15. If anyone had any thoughts on the qualities of Prahlad Maharaj, any qualities that stood out to you or anything you would like to discuss, you can open it up.
Hare Krishna, good morning, and thank you for a focused class on the beautiful qualities of Prahlad Maharaj. Definitely most attractive devotee, one of them, in the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. It's astounding. And then to see just the qualities, it's not just a matter of just looking at them, it's realizing this is possible. And if we're sincere and serious with the process of Krishna consciousness, this can manifest in all of us. And sometimes we hear the qualities, and maybe in my case, out of laziness or envy or pride or false pride or whatever it is, oh, this is impossible. How can I ever reach that? But the more I hear about Prahlad Maharaj, I'm realizing, and I've seen these qualities manifest right in front of me in different devotees. And I realize this is true. It can happen. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I'd like to share a little comment on your point that Prahlad Maharaj, he had these qualities and they were kind of, you could say, put to the test. So he was put in all these very difficult situations. And that's how we get to see his qualities come into action. He is still so compassionate to his father after all the things he tries to do to him. He's tolerant, he's determined, he's always praying to Krishna to protect him. And so similarly, if we're trying to get these qualities, we will have situations in which to show these qualities. And that's why when hard things can come in our life, we can be grateful that it's a chance, it's like a test, it's the exam. where all the theory can be applied. I'll share a small comment, not to make any big deal of myself. A while ago, like I think, a year ago, there was this person living in the ashram, and sometimes, I don't know why, but people try to kind of like bait you into getting frustrated or getting angry or getting like upset with them. And so he was like, he was living at the house previously, but he had moved out sometime, and then he was just like really like sending me these texts, like really digging into me and, you know, calling me these things, and it was so hurtful. And he kind of sent out some bait, and I took it. I was like, well, you know, you're blah, blah, blah. And then he, anyways, I ended up suffering like so much because I kind of fed into the envy, fed into the bait. And it really hurt me. And then, you know, 1 year later, I found myself in a very, very similar situation where someone had been texting me, and they wrote, you know, like, I'm trying to remember exactly. Anyways, they were kind of digging into me, and they sent out this bait. And I said, okay, I understand how you're feeling. I see how you're feeling. I'll get back to you later. Because I thought, okay, let me finish my rounds first. Before I engage with this energy, let me first finish my chanting. And even that was just an improvement from last time that I had learned. Because it really disturbed my chanting after that last year. But this time I was like, okay, wait, pause, you know, let's take a step back, let's wait, let me first finish what I need to do. So I said, can I get back to you later? And then the person had written, you're acting like a child trying to escape responsibility. And I was like, oh my God, like, I'm just, like I said, like, I'll get to you later. And so then I was like, okay, don't play into it, don't get baited. And so I just wrote, I understand what you're saying, and I'm sorry, but I'm genuinely busy today, and I want to give you my full attention and time, so can I talk to you tomorrow at this time? And I want to call you so that we don't have a misunderstanding. And I was like, whew, I just saved myself so much pain by writing that message. And then he responds, and he says, I'm trying to remember exactly. He says, hey, you're a real one, and you could have easily banned me from the ashram and the temple for writing you that message. And I'm sorry I was writing that way, but yeah, we can talk tomorrow. And then tomorrow came, and he didn't even want to talk. He didn't even want to talk anymore. And I was like, wow, you know, you can really disarm someone in this way by, you know, just trying to think like, okay, you know, pause. What would Prahlad do? You kind of have to strategize. Anyways, so my point in that was that I was put in a hard situation last year. And then 1 year later, I got put in the same situation, but at least there was a little bit of a difference. You know, I think perhaps a little bit of chanting, somehow I was able to at least learn from my previous situation and try to approach it from a different angle. And so Krishna, he will send us these things, these hardships, these challenges, and every time we can just get a little sharper, every time we can just get a little more experience, and we can deal with it a little better. And so that's how we make advancement, is through receiving these challenges head on. And we'll mess up, we'll make mistakes, but we keep improving gradually. So thank you, Mother Kunti, for such a nice point. We had Prabhupada Priya, unless anyone has something on this topic. Was it on this topic, Prabhupada Priya?
Drishta Prabhu, thank you so much for that story. You know, I heard you say at the beginning, you know, not to make a big deal of myself. I was thinking that these are the kind of situations that allow us to teach. Because if we go through this experience, then we can encourage other people that are going through a similar situation. We'd be like, oh yeah, we understand where they're coming from. We've been there, we've seen it. And so it gives us a little bit more capacity, authenticity, to be able to help others. And that's what puts us to the point where we can really, this can be our Sankirtan, our teaching, our way that we help encourage others. So I really appreciate you sharing that story. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm remembering the way I learned that was my teacher had told me. He said, if you're in these intense situations, always try to buy yourself time. Always try to, somehow get some time. Say, okay, Prabhu, I hear what you're saying. I'm going to think on this and come back to you later. Because you never have to respond immediately. You don't owe anyone your emotional response. There's no, sometimes if it's a certain situation where it's very intense and perhaps there's some danger, you have to respond on your feet. But generally, we do have time. We do have an ability to say, okay, I have a few other things to work through, and I'll get back to you soon. And so you don't have to say, okay, I'm going to go chant my rounds and then talk to you. But, you just say, okay, I'll get back to you. And we spend that time to chant our rounds. We ask for guidance from Krishna to illuminate something in our heart. And then we can come back and kind of save whatever situation we are in. So yeah. Parwad Priya?
Yeah, I like the point that how Prabhupada brought out the idea of Krishna Graha, Krishna being the supreme planet, the supreme planetary influence. Because sometimes we get, caught up in astrology and, I'm going through this phase and that this planet's in my sky now and this planet's rising on the horizon and oh my God, this is going to happen and, woe is me and all these things. And it's not that the planets don't have an influence, but I feel like the Krishna Graha can override all of them. And, we see that. I know I've consulted astrologers for many things, like my kids and things. And, the best astrologers have been generations doing astrology and they say, yeah, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. And none of it ever happens. I feel like Krishna, it's all just Krishna's plan. And I was thinking it's kind of like karma. That when we come to Krishna consciousness, then Krishna, so many times in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says you get free from sinful reactions, you get free from your karmic bondage. And so there may be some influences that resemble karma, but it's actually Krishna. So in the same way, there may be some influences in our life that resemble planetary influences, but it's actually Krishna. And if Krishna's like, yeah, let that planet influence them that way, then it will. If Krishna's like, nah, they don't need that in their life, then it won't. So it's all ultimately, for devotees, if we surrender to Krishna, it's all just, the only planet that's influencing us is the Krishna Graha.
Haribo.
Srila Prabhupada, he was quoted saying, with his lotus toe, he can kick so many Rahu Ketus and Saturns.
Hare Krishna. I think a couple of days back, I made this comment about who Srila Prahlad Maharaj was in his past life. He was Vasudeva, and there are some quotes in Hari Bhakti Vilas. But in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions that he is eternally situated in Vaikuntha, something like that, something to that effect. So also it is corroborated by the words Satyam Vidatum Nijabhritya Bhashitam. Nijabhritya means he is eternal, he is an eternal associate. So probably, I'm just speculating, philosophical speculation, probably, he was, after being Vasudeva, he was elevated to Vaikuntha planet. That was one thing. The other thing I was thinking about was the purpose. One of the purposes of Krishna for Prahlad Maharaj's descent was to teach. In the same verse he says, Vyaptim cha bhuteshu akhileshu chatmana. Just to teach the whole world how he's in every single atom, he's all pervading, in short. So he uses none other than Prahlad Maharaj, who is seeing Krishna everywhere. He won't use anybody, as an instrument to give that lesson to the entire creation, who is not practicing that lesson, right? So like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yomam pashyati sarvatra sarvam jamai pashyati. So I was meditating on that, and I'm begging at the lotus feet of Srila Prahlad Maharaj, so that all of us, all the practicing devotees, can practice this, seeing Krishna everywhere. And just to connect that, I was thinking, all of us, in our lives, we have some fear factor. Like I have to go to work now, and at work, something will come up at my desk, So if I change my outlook and angle, that particular fearful factor, this is Krishna. Look at that particular factor or the instrument of that factor. It's Krishna actually giving me this. So we can start practicing that, and that fear will go away. And that's what actually, that is the lesson Krishna is trying to teach us, to be able to see Krishna everywhere, in and everything. That was another one. And the last point, there are many people who demand, if there is God, show me. Where is he? But look at the humility of such great soul. He is able to see Krishna is everywhere. And when he's challenged, he's not demanding, Krishna come, and show, right? He doesn't have to speak up. Krishna is totally sold out to such pure devotee, and he manifests by his own sweet will. That's such a wonderful quality, of such great souls. They're not showing off, even though he's able to see Krishna everywhere.
Jai. Manjari Gopika.
Gokulananda Prabhu is such a hard act to follow. This is such a dumb question, but in verse 31 and 32, when it's talking about how Prahlad Maharaj is the perfect example of a pure devotee in how he interacts with everyone. To respectable persons, he acts like a menial servant. To the poor, he's like a father. To his equals, he's like a sympathetic brother. To his teachers, he considers his teachers the same as God, the personality of Godhead. But it also says to his spiritual masters and older God brothers. So who are his older God brothers?
I think perhaps Narada Muni's disciples.
Yeah, but who are his other disciples? I know someone here would know. Thank you.
Vyasadeva, you said? Yeah, I do think Prahlad is like, since it's in Satya Yuga, and like Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, and Nrsingadev, they're the first incarnations of Jai and Vijay, and Krishna comes quite early on. So it predates Dhruva Maharaj and Vyasadeva and these others, but in a sense it's all eternal as well. And yeah, perhaps Narada Muni has other disciples. Yeah, I heard he goes to the Brahmajyoti sometimes, and he liberates the souls who are just floating there. So, yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? Oh, Maji.
This is a follow-up question on Prabhupada Priyamataji's comment, or do we also exist in two places at the same time, material and spiritual? My question is back to her again, or whoever can answer is, so does that that may only apply for Mahabhagavats like Prahlad Maharaj and not people who are materially conditioned like us? Is that true?
So her question was, does so Prahlad Maharaj is in both Vaikuntha and the material world. And so she said, does that only apply for Mahabhagavats, or does that apply for everyone like us who are conditioned?
I can share my understanding. Whenever Krishna, as I said earlier, right, whenever Krishna wants to teach a particular lesson, he will use an instrument which is very qualified to teach that lesson. So I believe, like Jai Vijay, for example, right? So he wanted to have a fight. Krishna is a multitasker, so there were many purposes behind that particular pastime. But one of those purposes is he wants to teach the whole world that I choose only one of my associates, right? So that's my understanding. So basically, all of us, we don't fall into that category.
Mm-hmm. I think Mother Kunti had a comment.
Yeah, it's along the lines of what Gokulananda just said. No, we're not in that category. At the same time, Tamal Krishna Maharaj was at Goswami Gurudev. He was asked that same question in a Srimad Bhagavatam class, and I'm not sure what year it was. I could try to look it up. But he said that the devotee who's completely sincere, serious, following all the instructions of the spiritual master and with love and appreciation, they actually do, because the question was, what if you have a desire to be in the planet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but you also want to be in Sri Goloka Vrindavan? So that was the question, and Srila Gurudev said, for one who has fulfilled the order of the spiritual master, yes, that can happen.
As Mother Kunti was talking, I was thinking, look at Prahlad Maharaj. In Vaikuntha and here, his behavior, his qualities are same. He's seeing Krishna everywhere, And look at me, myself. I am not seeing Krishna everywhere and anywhere. I have so many others.
Yeah, I think
I'm not simultaneously.
You're not, okay. We still have to hope against hope for the mercy of the Lord. That's all.
Yeah.
I mean, we may not be there, and no, we may be in Maya 100%. And I know for myself, you see me any hour of the day, any minute of the day, you would say, oh, this Mataji is in so much Maya. So the point is that, yeah, it seems hopeless. It really does. At the same time, there's hope. There's Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That is our hope.
Sorry.
No, it'll have a rubber thing, so it won't hurt.
And the purport, Prabhupada quotes the famous verse, 11 to 42, Bhakti Parishano Bhava, right? And the analogy given in that verse is when we take a morsel of food in our mouth, tushti pushti kshida payana ghasam. Tushti is santushti, satisfaction. Pushti, nourishment. And kshida payana ghasam, the hunger is also satisfied at the same time. So virakti, detachment comes naturally. Just like there are these byproducts just now that I explained, tushti pushti kshida. So virakti, detachment and sense gratification goes away. That is a byproduct. It will happen automatically.
Yeah. Final comment? Probably.
I was just thinking, the 6 Goswamis, we know their identities in Krishna Lila, like Rupa Goswami is Rupa Manjari, and like that. Sanatana Goswami is Lavanga Manjari. So does that mean that when they come to the material world, they're missing? They're like absent? They're so crucial. They're so like critical players in Radha Krishna Lila. And are they absent?
Jai. On that note, Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Prahlad Maharaj ki jai.
To be continued on Srimad Bhagavatam WhatsApp. Jai Drishta Dumna Prabhu ki jai. Kalakanta Prabhu ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
मगन मनहर कालिय दमन विधान दशमति नंदन ब्रज बदनागर हरि नाम अन्य विलासा विपिन पुरंदर नवीन नागर मन बंसी मगन सुभाषा अमर हरि नाम अन्य विलासा विपिन पुरंदर नवीन नगर बर बंसी मगन सुभाषा दशमति नंदन ब्रज बदनागर गोकुल रंजन दशमति नंदन ब्रज